Niners pull one off 23-20 against the Bucs, and it was a rough one to watch. Way too many times stalling out in the red zone, but at least we didn't have any turnovers. I'm here with former podcast member of ours and well missed and glad to have you back, Mike Rango. How you doing, Mike?
I'm doing great, man. Things are always pretty much the same in Florida, hot as hell. Happy to be back, most definitely.
Welcome to the Stick 49ers podcast. Lucas Ortiz is on assignment here with Mike Rango, and I'm Lucas McLaughlin. So yeah, let's get into it. So first of all, what a tough game to watch, man. I'm so glad they pulled it out at the end. George Kittle made that incredible catch. How you feeling about McCaffrey coming back? Let's just start there.
It's absolutely wonderful to have him back. My only big gripe about it is he ended up touching the ball, 25, 30 times? That's way too much for a guy who's been missing the whole year, that miss OTAs. And I got to be honest with you, Luke, I have a very big concern about burying him to the ground and not using another guy like Jordan Mason. Jordan Mason got one rep for 5 yards. He looked great on that rep. I mean, how are we not going to use this guy? And then you got Garendo who's coming up and improving. The more you give Garendo the ball, the more he explodes. Reminds me a little bit of Mozart in that sense, that he just explodes. Different build, but explosiveness. I am concerned. I'm happy to have CMC back, but I really would prefer, and you tell me what you think, I prefer if they used him just a little bit more as a receiver. And honestly, he was more effective, in my opinion, as a receiver. If you look at his gains and his averages, he wasn't very effective in between the tackles. Why use him there where he's going to get buried to the ground, where he's going to get hurt? Put him where he can help the team the most, which is in the passing game. What do you think?
I think it was a first game back kind of situation, and the Bucs, I would credit their defense. They are good against the run. It was nice to see CMC. He looked good early on a couple of those runs, but yeah, definitely. Jordan Mason is more seasoned right now, and so they would have been better off splitting time there. But yeah, I think he definitely helps out Purdy in the passing game, and that's kind of like a huge attribute, that just him being on the field now, that the defense, especially the Bucs, because it's their ex-teammate, that they really have to worry about CMC and where he's at all times. And I think that helps the Niners. But yeah, overall, I mean, we didn't have the turnovers, but we also stalled out a bunch of way too many times. And then of course special teams has just been crazy this year, and Moody just saved his job, I think, with that last game winner.
Did I think so too, man. In his defense, though, it's like Kurt Warner said. What did he miss? 4 or 5 games? Yeah. I mean, I don't expect the fresh Moody. I don't think it's completely. I mean, yeah, it is his fault. This is a game, Luke, that we should have won by double digits, as far as I'm concerned. I'm sorry. We outplayed them in every facet of the game. I mean, their quarterback threw for 100 yards. Our quarterback threw for 3 off the top of my head. We passed for more yards. They did run for more yards, but we actually had better time of possession, which usually that usually goes with running the ball better, but not today. Like, there was no reason for the Niners not to win this game by 13 points.
Yeah. So I think McCaffrey came up with 39 yards on the ground on 13 carries. Not great. But then in the passing game, like we were talking about, 6 catches for 68 yards. That's really a good thing. Of course, Pearsall, awesome touchdown. Fox is kind of a weird broadcast. It seemed like they really broke that down and showed it very much. But wow, what a play by Pearsall. Wasn't it good to see him?
And I'll be honest with you, man, I believe, and I'm a big Debo fan, but Debo, aside from the first few games this season, you thought that Debo would be rising up his game. He really hasn't. Debo's not the same running back when he plays running back anymore, man. He's just not. And let me tell you, those plays that Debo gets, start giving the runarounds to, actually, I don't know if you read, the ball wasn't meant for Ricky Pearsall. It was meant for Cowie.
Oh, I didn't hear that. Wow.
Yeah, he stole the ball away from him, which kind of brings you back to that Super Bowl where Tom Rathman lined up Roger Craig's position.
Yeah.
And Roger Craig tapped him over like, yo, you got to move. And he's like, no.
Classic.
I don't want to be the hero too. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so Debo, you're right. only 15 yards on 3 carries. Of course, in the passing game,
Insane.
62 yards on 5 catches. And overall, I thought Purdy actually had a pretty good game. Not so much in the beginning, but he ended up catching his stride in the third and fourth quarter, and he throws for over 350 yards and no picks. So that's
Fantastic in the third. Yeah. Yeah, and you know what? Believe it or not, fantastic in the fourth in the sense that he helped drive his team down, making clutch throw after clutch throw. And as you mentioned earlier, super impressed with that touchdown by George Kittle. I mean, he looked like he reminded me of Chris Carter, because Chris Carter was always famous for the tippy toes and leaning his body out. I mean, and what a beautiful pass, man. Brock Purdy, he was scrambling around, doing, he reminds you of like a white, slow Russell Wilson kind of a little bit, It's the weirdest thing.
I'm not sure who it was, but on that play when he ended up hitting Kittle for that incredible catch, he did have someone early on in that. I mean, of course, you're not going to say, "Oh, you should have thrown it to this guy," but there was someone streaking. It might have been Debo who's streaking across the middle, who actually it would have been a great pickup, and then maybe some yak after that. That the pass that he ended up throwing to Kittle was where only Kittle could grab it, so it was a spectacular play. But,
spectacular.
But yeah, sometimes he's making these plays go so long that you wonder, if he holds it too long against a different team, that may be end up being a sack or a pick. But we got lucky on that one.
He's been spectacular this year, Lucas, if you don't mind me saying so. He's been spectacular at buying time with a decent O-line, not a great O-line, but a decent O-line.
Yeah.
But he's done great at buying time and finding open receivers, and it's something that he's starting to do more and more on a regular basis. It does worry me, but I do love to watch him play that way because when things break down, he does have that special knack and he's got good leadership skills. So I don't mind seeing it. At the same time, I know if the line's breaking down and he's running, that's not necessarily a good thing either.
Yeah.
He just turns it into something good.
True. Now, Jennings, it was nice to see him back from the hip injury.
Yeah,
he was the leading receiver for the Niners with 93 yards on 7 catches, and I guess he's going to have to be now that Ayuk's not there. We didn't really make any moves for receivers before the deadline. So
yeah. Well, I'll tell you what. I got Jennings on my taxi squad team for my fantasy, and I'm about to push him up. Take him off that taxi squad area and just at least put him on my bench now and switch him around because he should be a more important receiver at the moment, man. I mean, we got no Brandon Ayuk for the season.
Yeah.
I think over the next few weeks, they're going to fall in love. If they're not already, they're going to start falling in love with the new rookie toy.
Yeah.
Because, man, every time he gets the ball, he's got some electricity and some static to him. You know what I mean? Like, I like what he can do. And he's a good route runner. You could just see it. I mean, you're talking about a dude that's not supposed to be running good routes right now. A guy with no OTs who got shot in the chest. But the guy has not practiced the entire offseason.
Yeah.
He's stepping in, and he is outperforming a lot of starting wide receivers in the NFL right now. He's outperforming Debo. Yeah. You can think of it like that. He's a better route runner. That's why. But Debo's a special, different type of player. But
I'd like to get into the defense here a little bit. One question I want to ask you about is now Moody only hitting half of his field goals. I mean, it's a game changer, obviously. Do you just let him go and hopefully he'll be back next week and everything's like that, or do you go back and get Carlson? And what do you think? How do you think we're going to fare? Because he was a high draft pick, really. So he can't
get rid of him.
Yeah.
You absolutely. For those fans out there that want it, I see all the chat boards and everyone's like, "Hey, just cut him." You're not going to cut a guy that you drafted in the third round that shows so much potential.
Now, without Jerry Rice has been talking a lot about Debo kind of got into it with not just Moody, but the long snapper. And you don't want to see our team in a self-inflicted brawl on the sideline. So
no, you don't.
That's a bad look. Don't. So what do you think about that?
Look.
Do you think he should have just not said anything or did it behind closed doors, right?
I would do it behind closed doors, but what he said really wasn't when I was just reading up on it right now. And from what I understand from people that I know that were at the game, it really wasn't that offensive. He was basically just telling him, hey, get your stuff together.
Hey, maybe it helped him.
He didn't say any profanity.
Maybe that's why he made the last kick to win the game.
Yeah, he said, get it together, and then the other guy was coming from the standpoint of, hey, don't break his confidence, because they always say kicking is 100% mental.
Yeah.
So you could be hurting the kid's confidence instead of building it up. So you got to be careful how you approach these kickers. You know, I forgot who it was. I think it was the old coach of the Cowboys. Be like, man, it's a dime a dozen. You know what I mean? Like the moment that they go bad, you need to get a new one. And I don't think we're there yet.
Yeah.
You know, the guy missed 4 or 5 games, cut him some slack. But yeah, missing 3 in a game. Normally, I would say that's unacceptable due to the circumstance of him, not playing for 4 or 5 weeks. I'm ready to cut him some slack. I'll be honest with you. And again, he made it when it mattered. So at least today.
Very true.
Yesterday.
Again, so this is the Stick 49ers podcast. I'm Lucas McLaughlin. Lucas Ortiz is on assignment here with Mike Rango. So, Mike, let's talk defense. So I know Fred Warner, he still led our team in tackles, but it wasn't his best game. And you could tell he got caught in a couple of spots where, especially on that touchdown, where he moved over just like they wanted him to and cleared the route. So what do you think is going on with our defense? Mustafa looks great. But do you think that we are poised to start winning now that we have CMC back? And what do you see the problems with the 49ers defense right now?
The defense is simple. It's Dre Greenlaw. There's too much pressure. I don't want to say pressure, but Fred Warner's trying to make too much happen because of the fact he doesn't have his partner in crime over there. You know.
Do we have a timeline on Greenlaw? I know you're sprinting around at the practice facility.
Yeah. You're hoping for the end of the year. He's already running.
Nice.
He's jogging.
In the next couple of games, do you see him maybe coming back?
He started running, I think, like 2-3 weeks ago, but he's been jogging more and more and more. I'm hoping so, but you gotta sprint. Again, you know how Kyle is. Sometimes when he likes you and he wants to play you, he's gonna play you regardless, like he just did with CMC. I think you got to sprinkle him back. But I think that the Niners may be in a situation where, listen, man, the Western Conference right now is really, really tight.
Yeah.
You know, everyone is in it. This is a conference where you're going to have to win 10 games. And even if you win 10 games, there's a slight chance you might not make it. But you got to win 10 games in this conference to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
There's X amount of games left. And the Niners got to win more than what they lose. I can tell you that right now. So I'm not going to say that they're going to rush him, but I'm sure if he wants to play, they're not going to say no either.
Yeah.
You know?
So we do have the Seahawks on tap. That was a really interesting game when we played them in their house. So they're coming to Santa Clara. How do you like the matchup against the Seahawks in Santa Clara with CMC back? And hopefully, we didn't have any major injuries that I'm not aware of in this game against the Bucs. So how do you think we fare against the Seahawks?
I think we fare really well. The only injury in the last game, that they haven't announced it as being an injury. I know the new rookie Green at corner had some toe issues at the end, but he came back. So you assume that he's okay.
Okay.
You're going to assume and he's fantastic, by the way. He's been playing his heart out. He actually got he was the highest rated rookie on the Niners this week.
Nice.
And, Pooney usually takes that award week in and week out.
Yeah.
So that tells you how good he was playing. But, yeah, I like this matchup against the Seahawks, man. The Seahawks don't really threaten me much. Geno Smith is back to being Geno Smith, man. 3 years ago, it's going to be 3 years now. He's living off the coattails of 2.5 years ago. 2.5 years ago, he had 34 touchdowns off the top of my head. I think 12 picks. Great year for Geno Smith. He hasn't done that since then.
Yeah,
he broke
20.
Niners
have been able to frustrate him pretty well in the last year, especially. So
he broke 20 last year, and this year he's struggling to hit 20 or close to it. So Geno Smith doesn't threaten me at all, man. I don't. Lockett's taking a step back because of Geno also. So they don't worry me much. I think for them to beat us, they really have to pound the ball a lot.
Yeah, they definitely have had their good points this year as far as being scrappy team that just kind of gets it done. But but in general, I think as long as we're playing our game and Purdy has another game like we just had with 353 yards and 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. I think the turnovers become the key to win.
Oh, always, definitely. And you know what? I mean, Tampa Bay is super, super scrappy team. You saw how they almost beat the Chiefs. Heck, they kind of got ripped off possibly against the Chiefs. It's not the first time the refs have been helping the Chiefs. But that's a completely
gets
other
this
show.
Yeah.
That's another show that the refs have helped them 5 times this year. That's another show. 3 times in the end zone. But again, that's another story. But yeah, no. In regards to that, man, I definitely think the crowd's going to be super energetic for this one too. I mean, this is going to be, we just finished our first 2-game winning streak, believe it or not, of the season. So, they're going to be excited. They want to see 3 in a row, and we need that 3 in a row, to maybe tie up next week for first place.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a chance we could even get first, but we got the Packers after this game, and the Packers are up and coming.
Yeah.
Their quarterback is a little erratic once in a while, but he's good too. So I think this is a really, really good, important game for us this week. To me, it almost feels like a must win. I'll be honest with you, because it's a division game, and our division record so far isn't very good.
So why don't you give us a score against Seattle? And I agree with your comment earlier about Jordan Mason should be getting more carries, man. So hopefully between him and CMC, then hopefully they'll figure that out. But
Kyle Shanahan, if you're watching the show, I need you to realize that Jordan Mason has been leading the league in rushing like 4 out of the last 8 weeks. And he's still in the top 4 coming into this game. He's top 4, top 6 coming into this game. How can you not give him the football? The guy's averaging over 5 yards a play.
Even if you have him and CMC out there, I think it's a great move.
50-50, and CMC could get more reps because he's a better blocker. It was a great
split
block
him out to as a wideout, and then you still have you can still get to Mason. Yeah. So.
Yeah, and then for a change of pace, you put in your big weapon that could just break the game open, which is Garendo. Don't let Garendo stall back either, man. You got 3 good running backs. Let's do this like maybe how we did it a few years ago. That first year went to the Super Bowl with Jimmy, where man, you had 3 running backs and they were all getting a turn.
Yeah,
when CMC's ready to take more reps, I mean, I love CMC, but I don't care about his feelings about wanting to play the football if it's going to affect him down the road. We need him for the long run. You got to have your eyes on the prize. We're here to try and win a Super Bowl, man.
At the beginning of the season, right?
Yeah, man. We're here to try to win a Super Bowl, not another. You got to do what you got to do to get there, man, regardless of how it affects your stats.
So, give us a score for Seattle at home.
We haven't had any blowout wins. I'm not going to say we're going to have a blowout win. But, man, if we are, this has to be the game that we probably blow someone out. So, I'm just going to be a hypocrite right now and go against what I just said. So, I'm going to predict somewhat of a blowout this week, I think the 49ers get it together this week. I think Brock Purdy has another amazing day throwing for 300 yards. I think they give CMC a little bit of a break, not too much. Mason runs for 40. CMC runs for 60. They use him more in the passing game. I think the passing game is going to be huge this week. I'm going to say 49ers 27, Seahawks 9.
Nice. All right. Now I'm going to go Niners 38 to Seattle 21.
All right. 38-21.
We get that. 3 turnovers, and that's what the difference in the game will be.
I love it when you predict the turnovers. I was wondering you do it based on what, but you're right a lot of times too on that. I don't know if you're going out of gut feeling or what you're doing.
I just use the force,
Well, you know what? It might even make some sense because I told you I think Brock Purdy's going to have a big passing game. I take the over on whatever that is, right? If the Niners have a big passing game that day, that forces Geno Smith to throw the football, and we know what that leads to. Picks.
Broken clipboards on the sideline.
I'll go with you, buddy. I'll go with it. I'll go with it, man. I'll go with it.
All right. You're watching and listening to the Stick 49ers podcast. Thank you so much for joining us, Mike Rango. And Iron Mike, you're always welcome here on the show. And great to see you and great to talk with you. And go Niners, man.
Things are going great. Go Niners. And maybe for the playoffs, we'll meet up again. Most definitely.
So I'm Lucas McLaughlin. And Lucas Ortiz will be back soon and signing off. So go Niners. Take care, Mike.
Go Niners. Love you, man. Be safe, my friend.
Take care.
Looking, throwing in the end zone.